No one believes me when I say it out loud, and I don't blame them. The first time I held my baby, I cried harder than he did. Not because I was happy, not because I was in pain, but because I knew the truth would burn everything I loved to the ground. My name is Claire. I was a wife, a caregiver, a loyal daughter-in-law. Now I'm a mother of a boy whose father is technically his own grandfather. If you find value in real stories told with clarity and truth, make sure to subscribe to stay informed with Left Woman Loud. It started 11 years ago. I was 22, freshly married to David Harper, a man 17 years older than me. A kind man, quiet, the kind who gave you his coat and never asked for it back. But David was sick, Parkinson's, early onset, and his body aged faster than his spirit. We lived on his family's estate just outside Chattanooga, Tennessee. Big house, quiet woods, too many locked rooms. His father, Leonard, had died long ago. His mother, Jean, stayed in the guest house. His son, yes, David had a son, lived in New York. Grayson Harper, 25. Sharp jawline, cold eyes, high-rise job. We'd never met. At the wedding, he didn't come, didn't call. David just said, he never forgave me for marrying his mother, then never forgave me again for outliving her. 2 years passed. David's symptoms got worse. He couldn't hold a fork without trembling, couldn't sign his name without me steadying his hand. I gave up my teaching license to care for him full-time. Jean called me the good wife, but sometimes when she watched me help David into bed, her lips pressed into a hard line, like she was swallowing something. That was when Grayson finally came home. Without warning, he pulled onto the driveway in a black rental 3 days before Christmas. Tall, clean-shaven, his mother's nose, his father's haunted stillness. I remember the first thing he said to me, "You're not what I expected." I smiled politely. "Neither are you." He stayed for 2 weeks. David's voice was already soft by then, but around Grayson, it became softer. He looked smaller next to his son, shrinking into his flannel robes and memory lapses. One night, David whispered to me, "Grayson was 9 when Margaret died. He thinks I didn't love her, that I moved on too fast." I didn't know what to say. Grayson was polite in front of David, but behind closed doors, his eyes said it all. "You're too young, too pretty, too convenient." I didn't want to care. I didn't want to notice. But grief warps time, and loneliness makes strangers feel familiar. Christmas Eve, I heard him crying, Grayson, in the kitchen at 3 a.m. I should have walked away. Instead, I made tea and sat across from him in silence. After a long pause, he said, "Do you love him?" I didn't flinch. "I do." He looked at me like I was lying. Then he said it. "I think you love the idea of saving people, but not the ones who can't be saved." I got up, furious. But before I could speak, he added, "You're too young to be a widow. That's what I hate most, that I know it's coming." And then, God help me, I cried too. 2 months later, David collapsed in the bathtub. Seizure, hospital, then hospice. The night before he passed, he took my hand and said, "Tell him I tried." He didn't say who, but I think we both knew. Grayson didn't return for the funeral. He sent a card, no flowers. And I, grieving, disoriented, half alive, found myself drawn back to the house, to the silence, to Jean's knowing eyes, to the ghost of a man who died slowly enough to scar every memory with pain. It was 2 months after the funeral when Grayson returned. He said he was handling the estate. I said, "So am I." And for the first time, we stood in the same room without speaking like enemies. There is a grief that turns into rage, and there is a rage that softens into something dangerous. That's what happened the night the storm knocked the power out. Candles, whiskey, silence. Grayson poured one drink, then another. He told me about his mother, how she smelled like oranges and winter linen, how she died screaming in a car accident that took half his childhood. Then he looked at me and said, "I hated you for being alive. I think I hated him too." I reached for the glass. My hand touched his. I didn't pull away. What happened next was a mistake, but it didn't feel like one at the time. We were broken people looking for warmth in cold rooms. We told ourselves it was closure. But closure doesn't breathe heavily in the dark. It doesn't whisper your name like a secret. 2 weeks later, I was late. I thought it was stress, grief, the usual. But then the test turned pink, and my stomach dropped into the past. I didn't call him. I didn't tell Jean. I just stared at myself in the bathroom mirror and whispered the truth no one would believe. My baby's father is my dead husband's son. Claire sat on the edge of the bathtub, holding the test like it might shatter. 2 pink lines, a heartbeat inside her, a child whose very existence violated every boundary of family, grief, and decency. She didn't cry, not at first, but her hands began to tremble, the same way David's had toward the end, and the silence in the house felt like judgment. Jean was in the garden that morning, pruning roses as she always did when she was angry, or pretending not to be. Claire watched her from the window, one hand pressed gently against her flat belly. She whispered, "I can't raise a lie, but I don't know how to carry the truth either."
If you find strength in stories that explore difficult truths, subscribe to Left Woman Loud, because some lives can only be understood once they're spoken. She didn't tell Grayson, not right away. Instead, she wrote down a list in her journal, a brutal tally of truth and consequences. If I tell him, he'll disappear. Again. If I tell Jean, she'll destroy me. If I stay silent, the baby grows up not knowing. If I speak, what if the baby grows up ashamed? No option felt kind. No outcome was clean. That night, she dreamt of David, his hand on her stomach, his voice barely above a whisper. "Will you tell him it wasn't all a mistake?" She woke up sweating, the taste of guilt in her mouth like copper. 3 days later, Grayson knocked on her door. She hadn't seen him since the night of the storm. He looked exhausted, more stubble than usual, his shirt wrinkled. He didn't ask to come in. He just said, "I think I owe you an apology." Claire swallowed. About what? About everything. The anger, the judgment. You didn't deserve it. You loved him. I see that now. Her eyes burned, but she kept them open. He reached for her hand, but she pulled it back back gently. "I can't do this again." He nodded. "I wasn't here for him when it mattered. I'm not trying to rewrite that by being near you. I promise." She wanted to believe him, but she knew something he didn't. "I'm pregnant with your child." The words screamed in her throat, but her lips wouldn't move. Jean noticed first. Not the pregnancy, the distance. "You don't eat, you don't sleep, you barely speak," she said, sliding a mug of mint tea across the kitchen table. "Widowhood looks different on everyone, Claire, but silence is not strength." Claire forced a smile. "I'm fine." Jean narrowed her eyes. "I raised a son who lied for a living. I can spot it from a mile away." Claire's voice cracked. "Some things aren't meant to be said." Jean stared at her, long, hard, then turned the kettle off with a loud snap. "Then you'd better make peace with the ghost that will come knocking. They always do." She went to the doctor alone. 7 weeks. Heartbeat strong. No complications. Claire stared at the screen and felt two things simultaneously: joy, terror. How could something so small already feel so heavy? That night, she pulled out the envelope David had left in the desk drawer. It had one word written on the front: Claire. Inside was a letter. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. Maybe Grayson came back. Maybe he didn't. Maybe you're angry at me. That's okay. You gave me dignity when the world took everything else. I want you to know I never doubted your heart. But I worry you will. So let me say what I should have said years ago. You deserve a life that doesn't cost you your soul." Claire wept. Not just for what she had done, but for the man who loved her in silence while her heart cracked open in ways she never planned. She called Grayson the next morning. "Can you meet me?" she asked. "Not at the house, somewhere else." They met at the edge of the lake trail David used to walk before the tremors made it impossible. He brought coffee. She didn't touch hers. "Claire, is something wrong?" She exhaled slowly, her hands trembling again. "There's something I have to tell you. And once I do, there's no going back." His jaw stiffened. "You're scaring me. I'm pregnant." Silence. Wind rustled the trees. Claire watched the blood drain from his face. "Is it?" "Yes." Another silence. Longer. He backed away a step. "Jesus, Claire. I didn't plan this. You didn't stop it either." She flinched. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't hated myself for weeks?" Grayson turned away, his hands in his hair. "This baby will be your sibling, your father's grandchild, and his. Do you realize what that means?" She didn't answer. Because she knew. She knew. And every night, it haunted her in whispers. "I need you to leave. For now. Is that what you want?" "No, but it's the only thing I can survive. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat on the porch until morning, watching the mist rise from the fields. Jean found her there. "You look like a woman who's made a deal she can't undo." Claire blinked. Jean sat down beside her. "You know, when Margaret died, I thought David would never smile again. Then he met you, and I hated you for it. Until I didn't, because you reminded me that love after grief is still love." Claire turned to her, tears welling. "I'm pregnant, Jean." Jean didn't flinch, didn't blink. "Is it his?" Claire nodded once. And for the first time, Jean's mask cracked. "Then we're going to need a story. A damn good one." Jean didn't scream. She didn't faint, or quote scripture, or call her lawyer. She just stood up from the porch swing, brushed imaginary dust off her skirt, and said, "Get dressed. We're going to the attic." Claire blinked. "What?" Jean's voice was steady. "If you want to survive this, you need to know the truth about the Harpers." The attic smelled of cedar and secrets. Claire followed Jean up the narrow stairs, the air thick with dust and something older. Shame, maybe. Jean opened a chest and pulled out a wooden box carved with ivy and initials. L.H. plus M.F. Leonard Harper and Margaret Fontaine, David's father and mother. Inside, old photographs, love letters tied in yellow ribbon, and a stack of documents wrapped in a silk handkerchief. Jean placed the bundle on a trunk and looked Claire dead in the eye. "You think you're the first," she said. "You're not."
If stories of buried truths and generational silence matter to you, consider subscribing to Left Woman Loud, because some truths don't die with the dead. Jean opened the folder. On top, a letter in Margaret's handwriting. "To whoever finds this, I pray you understand. I was a girl when he married me. Leonard was already 39. I thought I loved him, but I was just trying to escape my father. Then David was born, and so was my guilt." Claire looked up. Jean's face was unreadable, like stone. Another letter followed, this one darker. David was always different, quiet, observant. Leonard hated that. He called him soft. I should have stopped what happened. I should have fought harder. But I was afraid. Because the man who fathered my son also haunted him. Claire's mouth went dry. She whispered, "Leonard?" Jean nodded once. "David never told you, did he? His father abused him. Not just emotionally, not just with words." Claire's stomach twisted. She thought of David's hands, the shaking, the hollow look when he spoke of childhood. Jean folded the letters back into the cloth. David carried that shame his whole life. That's why he married older, chose calm over chaos. You weren't just his wife, Claire. You were his safe place. Claire sat down on the attic floor, her hand resting on her belly. "So this family has a history of silence. Jean knelt beside her. Of silence and secrets and women cleaning up after men's sins. Claire's voice cracked. So what do I do? What do I tell this child? Jean stood slowly. You tell him the truth. When he's old enough to understand, it won't define him. Claire wiped her eyes. And until then, Jean looked toward the window. A faint breeze rustled the dust-covered curtains. Until then, we protect him, like mothers do. The next few weeks passed in careful silence. Claire avoided town. She told neighbors she was grieving and needed space. She told her doctor she was not ready to announce anything yet. Grayson didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask. But every few nights, Claire would find his car parked at the far end of the old trail. Alone, windows fogged, headlights off. Like he couldn't stay, but couldn't fully leave. Then came the envelope. No return address. Inside, a photograph. Grayson and Claire, standing by David's grave, her hand brushing his arm. On the back, in jagged letters, does the old woman know? Claire froze. Someone knew. That night, she confronted Jean. Someone's watching us, she said, slamming the photo on the table. Jean stared at it, then calmly poured herself a whiskey. You ever heard of Marianne Caldwell? Claire shook her head. She was Leonard's first assistant, before Margaret. They say he kept her quiet with money, that she had a child, boy named Harris. Jean sipped her drink. Harris Caldwell changed his name when he turned 18, moved to Georgia, opened a private investigation firm. Claire blinked. You think? Jean nodded. I think someone is digging into Harper bloodlines for a reason. Later that night, Claire stood in the nursery, the one she and David had painted a year before he died. The crib sat untouched, the walls still pale yellow. A single toy bear stared from the shelf. She whispered aloud, What are we bringing this child into? And from the hallway, Jean answered, Not a curse, a reckoning. Grayson didn't knock this time. He burst into the house with mud on his boots and panic in his voice. Claire, we need to talk, now. Jean looked up from the kitchen sink, drying a glass like nothing had shifted in the world. Claire stepped out from the hallway. What happened? Grayson held up a manila envelope, his hands shaking. Someone sent this to my office. No note, no return address, just this, and a warning. He laid the contents on the table. Photos, documents, a birth certificate, and then a DNA test. Claire went cold. If you believe the past always finds a way to surface, stay with us. Left Woman Loud tells the stories that families bury, but hearts never forget. Jean picked up the DNA report with steady hands, scanning it fast, like she already knew what it would say. Grayson's voice cracked. It's about my grandfather, Leonard. The test says he
He fathered 2 sons. One was David. The other... Claire's breath caught. Who? Grayson swallowed. A man named Harris Caldwell. Jean sat down, her spine suddenly heavy. So it's true. Grayson looked at her. You knew? I suspected. Leonard had routines. Women who disappeared. Hushed calls in the middle of the night. Margaret wasn't the only one he broke. Claire leaned forward, piecing it together. So Harris Caldwell is investigating the family. Because he's family. Half uncle, if you want to get technical. And what does he want? Claire asked. Grayson dropped the final photo on the table. It was Claire, pregnant, in town, walking by the church steps. On the back, you think this child won't carry the curse? Claire gripped the table edge, her knuckles white. This is harassment. Grayson nodded. It's more than that. He's building a case, one that could go public. Jean's eyes narrowed. What case? Grayson hesitated. Claire answered first. Incest, lineal corruption, abuse of power. And me, they'll paint me out to be the gold-digging widow who seduced her stepson. Jean whispered. They'll make you out to be Margaret 2.0. Claire turned to her. What do we do? Jean stood up, slowly, with finality. We end the silence. We tell the story, our way. The next day, Jean made a call to a retired reporter in Nashville, an old friend, the kind who still believed in truth before headlines. Her name is Marlene. She owes me a favor. She'll listen. Claire was hesitant. What if this backfires? Jean handed her a folder. Inside, the letters from Margaret. David's goodbye note. The DNA results. If you don't write the narrative, someone else will. Marlene came the next morning. Late 60s, sharp lipstick, sharper eyes.
She sat in the parlor like a war correspondent preparing for the front line. Off the record until you say otherwise, she said, clicking on her recorder. Tell me everything. Claire did. From the beginning. David's kindness, his illness, his ghost of a son, the grief, the one night, the test, the child. And then Jean added the family legacy. Leonard's sickness, Margaret's silence, and now Harris, Leonard's bastard son, stirring the past like a weapon. Marlene sat quietly for a long time afterward. Then she said, You know what this story is? Claire looked up, eyes damp. A scandal? No, a reckoning. You didn't break this family, Claire. You revealed the fracture. 3 days later, Marlene called back. She said, There's something you need to see. Meet me at the Willow Inn, room 202. Claire and Grayson drove in silence. When they arrived, Marlene handed them a folder. Before I went to press, I did a little digging into Harris. Turns out, he's not just angry. He's dying. Claire blinked. What? Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed 6 months ago. No known children, no partner. Just a decades-old obsession with the father who never claimed him. Grayson sat back, So this is his legacy? Exactly, she said. He doesn't want justice. He wants to bring it all down before he goes. Claire whispered, including my child. That night, Claire lay awake, hand on her stomach. The baby kicked, soft but certain. She whispered, I won't let them make you a symbol of shame. You're more than blood, more than the sins of the men who came before. The next morning, Marlene published the story online. Title: The Harper Legacy: How Generational Silence Birthed a Cycle of Secrets. She didn't name Claire, didn't show photos, but the outline was clear enough for anyone who wanted to connect the dots. Within hours, the Harper name trended locally. Some comments were cruel, some offered support, but the truth finally was out. Grayson showed up that evening. He looked tired, but steadier. I read the story, he said. Claire nodded. So did I. Silence passed between them like a prayer. Grayson stepped closer. You were right to tell it. I was wrong to run. Claire turned to him, eyes wet. I never wanted to ruin you. He shook his head. You didn't. You gave us a chance to be honest, even if it costs us everything. They stood in the doorway as the sky darkened, side by side. The wind stirred the leaves. Claire whispered, almost to herself, if my child asks one day, why did you do it? I want to say, because truth was the only inheritance worth passing down. Claire wasn't sure what she expected Harris Caldwell to look like, but she didn't expect that. He was shorter than Grayson, but lean, compact, a frame built on restraint, not power. White hair cropped close, eyes the same gray-blue that once stared from David's face. And when he spoke, it was with a voice trained to wound. I didn't come to destroy you, not completely. He sat across from Claire and Jean at a weathered diner off the interstate. No cameras, no legal threats, just black coffee and the kind of silence that waits to be weaponized. At Left Women Loud, we explore how trauma reshapes identity, subscribe for stories that speak the unspeakable, and remind us that legacy can be rewritten. Jean leaned forward. Then why now? Why send the photo, the file, the threat? Harris didn't flinch. Because secrets breed sickness. Leonard Harper made sure of that. I figured it was time the world knew what kind of man started your bloodline. Claire met his gaze. And my child, what's he to you? He blinked, just once, then said, a mirror of what happens when no one intervenes. Claire narrowed her eyes. You don't know me. No, but I know what grief does, what silence turns into. Jean crossed her arms. Get to the point. Harris tapped the envelope on the table. I'm offering a truce. Claire's heart skipped. Truce? Harris leaned in. I'll stop the leak, the whispers, the photos, everything, on one condition. Claire tensed. What condition? He slid a single sheet across the table. It was a notarized agreement. Full control of the Harper Estate Trust to be transferred to a private foundation. One Harris would chair. Jean scoffed. You want to steal the house? I want to turn it into something that undoes the harm. A retreat center. For survivors. For the ones like David. Like me. Claire whispered. You think that's justice? No, but it's better than vengeance. That night, Claire paced in the hallway outside what used to be David's study. Grayson met her there. You met him, he said. She nodded. He wants the house, everything, for some redemption mission. Grayson's jaw clenched. He spent months threatening us, and now he wants to be a hero? I sighed. What if it's not about being a hero?
What if it's about not dying a villain? Grayson looked at her hard. Do you trust him? She shook her head. I don't know, but I trust what this place has done to us. Grayson stepped closer. Then maybe it's time we give it back. The next morning, Claire walked through every room, touching walls, whispering goodbye to ghosts. In the nursery, she held a blanket to her chest. Jean found her there. You're really doing it? She asked. Claire nodded. He wants to do good with what caused so much harm. Maybe that's how we break the cycle. Jean looked down, then said softly, then let me be the one to sign it over. David would have wanted it to come from me. Claire squeezed her hand.
Thank you. The transfer happened quietly. No press, no ceremony. Just ink, paper, and the faint sound of a door closing on history. Harris kept his word. The stories stopped, the photos disappeared, and the local rumor mill shifted to a new scandal within a week. And the Harper estate? Within 6 months, it would be cleared, renovated, and reopened as a trauma recovery center. Claire never set foot in it again. But the weight didn't lift all at once. One night, Claire sat outside her new apartment, her baby's bassinet beside her. The stars were quiet. She whispered, "Did I do the right thing?" The baby stirred. Not yet born, but somehow already listening. Grayson came by the next morning. He brought groceries and a folder of paperwork. Claire raised a brow. "What's that?" He sat down, opened the file. "A name. For the baby, if you'll let me." Claire's breath hitched. Inside was a legal document, request for shared parental guardianship. But it wasn't controlling. It didn't name him as father. It named him as protector. Grayson spoke carefully. "You don't owe me anything, but I want to show up, not as a mistake or a shadow, but as someone who wants to do better than the ones before me." Claire's eyes welled. "I don't know what we are. I don't even know what I am sometimes." He nodded. "But I know who he'll be, and that starts with us choosing, not hiding." Claire signed it. Slowly, deliberately. Not out of fear, but with fragile hope. The kind that only blooms in ashes. It began with a knock. A quiet, unsure tapping on Claire's apartment door. Late afternoon. The sky outside turning gold. The baby's due date just 3 weeks away. Claire opened it slowly. Standing there was a man in his early 60s, thin, balding, nervous in a way that felt practiced. He held a folder and a name tag. Mr. Elias Finch, probate attorney. "Well, Miss Claire Harper, I need to speak with you. It's about your late husband's will. Or rather, a second one." Claire blinked. "There's another will?" At Left Woman Loud, we uncover the emotional fault lines buried beneath paper trails and power. Subscribe for stories that pull truth into the light, no matter the cost. Claire offered him tea. She wasn't sure why. Maybe because David had always believed in courtesy before conflict. Finch sat at the small table beside the window and unfolded the documents with slow, deliberate hands. After David passed, the family submitted the most recent version of his estate plan, dated a year before his death. You were granted caretaker benefits, a small pension, and temporary residence on the Harper estate. Claire nodded. "I remember." Finch adjusted his glasses. But 2 weeks ago, a safety deposit box registered under David Harper's name was flagged. Inside was this. He slid a sealed envelope across the table.
David's handwriting. Her name. Claire's hand trembled as she opened it. Inside was a letter. Claire, I don't know if this will reach you, but I want you to know what the lawyers filed wasn't my true will. I was too afraid to sign it in front of them, too afraid Jean or Grayson would think I'd lost my mind. But this version, it's real, it's raw, it's everything I wanted to leave you, not out of guilt, but out of gratitude. Tears hit the paper before she could keep reading. Finch said softly, "This version grants you full ownership of all Liquid Harper assets and guardianship of the heir." Claire froze. Heir? Finch nodded. David suspected you might one day become a mother, even without him. This document ensures that any child raised in your name is protected under Harper inheritance law. Claire whispered, "He knew." Finch folded his hands. He guessed. Later that night, Claire sat in the dark, the letter clutched to her chest. David had known, or at least had made peace with the fact that she might move forward without him. And instead of punishment, he left her protection. She whispered into the shadows, "I didn't deserve your grace, but I will not waste it." When Jean heard, she didn't blink. Of course, she'd known David was planning something private, but not like this. He knew what this family did to him, and he wasn't about to let it do the same to you. Claire nodded. "But why not tell me?" "Because love sometimes hides behind fear." He thought silence was a way of shielding you. When Grayson found out, he said nothing for a long time. Then, he forgave you. That's what this means. Claire shook her head. "No, he freed me." The legal proceedings moved fast, with Harris having ceded the estate for his foundation and Jean stepping back. The remaining assets became Claire's, not to hoard, but to safeguard. She set up a trust, one that would grow with her son, not to bind him, but to release him. She named it the Second Chance Fund.
The baby came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. No complications. 8 pounds, 1 ounce. Eyes the same green-brown mix as David's. A cry that filled the room like absolution. Claire held him against her chest, sobbing softly. Grayson stood in the doorway, tears slipping silently down his face. "What's his name?" he asked. Claire looked down at the tiny hand wrapped around her finger, then up at Grayson. "David, Eli, Harper." 3 days later, a letter arrived. No return address, just one line written in scratchy cursive. "Some things get to start over. He should be one of them. H.C." Claire placed it in the same box as the first DNA report, the will, and David's final letter. She wasn't keeping secrets anymore. But some truths deserved stillness, not silence, just peace. 1 week after the baby's birth, she stood in the now empty estate. The walls stripped, the floors polished. The first recovery group arriving in 2 days. She walked through the halls with her son asleep on her chest and whispered into the emptiness, "You will grow up in light, my love, not under the weight of anyone's shadow." The Harper Recovery Center opened on a fog-drenched Saturday morning. Former victims, counselors, silent donors, journalists with quiet pens. They filled the halls of what once was a house of grief, now painted in soft whites and sky blues. Claire stood in front of the microphone, her son tucked against her hip in a wrap. He was barely 6 weeks old,
and already changing faster than the silence that used to hang over her life. She hadn't planned to speak, but when Jean gently touched her back and whispered, "He'd want you to," she stepped forward. At Left Woman Loud, we amplify the voices of women rising from the wreckage. If this story speaks to your soul, consider subscribing and joining our circle of truth. The room quieted as Claire adjusted the mic. She took a breath, steadying her voice. This house held a lot of pain, most of it behind closed doors, some of it never spoken out loud. But pain doesn't lose power when you whisper it. It loses power when you name it. She paused, eyes sweeping the crowd. I was David Harper's wife, his caregiver, his protector, even when he didn't want protecting. I watched him fight demons, some that shook his hands, and others that haunted his memory. Her voice caught. I was also the mother of a child born from something complicated. Not scandalous, not shameful, but human. She looked toward the plaque on the wall. The David Room for healing after silence. Claire ended simply. We heal, not because we erase the past, but because we walk forward carrying it differently. The crowd stood, applauded, some wept, and Claire, for once, did not. After the event, a woman approached Claire, late 40s, elegant but with a kind of storm behind her eyes. "Claire Harper?" she asked. Claire nodded, shifting the baby. "My name's Dana Caldwell, Harris's sister." Claire's heart skipped. Dana pulled a small envelope from her coat. "I wasn't sure if I should come, but Harris died last week. Pancreatic cancer, just like you were told." Claire blinked. "I'm sorry." Dana nodded. "He wasn't an easy man, but he left something. Said to give it to you, and only to you." Claire took the envelope with trembling fingers. That night, with David Eli asleep on her chest, she opened the letter. "Claire, I never believed in redemption. I believed in justice until I realized I was just angry. But seeing you at that table, hearing your voice, I saw what the Harper name could become. I won't haunt you. I won't fight you. I'll die quietly. But please tell him, your son, when he's old enough, that his great-grandfather was a monster, and that his mother chose to end the cycle." Claire sat for a long time in the quiet. She didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because healing had changed what tears were for. 2 days later, Claire took a walk to the lake. Grayson was already there, skipping rocks like he used to when they were kids. Except they weren't kids, and they never would be again. She sat beside him, the baby between them. Grayson nodded toward the water. "You looked strong up there. I know it cost you." Claire smiled faintly. "It did, but not as much as staying silent would have." They sat in silence a while. Then Grayson asked, "Do you ever regret it?" She looked down at her son, then at Grayson. "Only the parts where we lied to ourselves." Grayson leaned back. "I'm staying in town. Got a job consulting for the center, helping with the books." Jean twisted my arm. Claire raised an eyebrow. "Jean doesn't twist. She waits." Grayson chuckled, then looked at Claire seriously. "I want to be in his life, not just legally, but actually, if you'll let me." Claire didn't answer right away. She watched a leaf drift across the water, then said softly, "We don't have to rewrite our history to give him a better one. We just have to live the truth now." Grayson nodded. Then let's do that. That night, Claire placed all the letters, David's, Harris's, Margaret's, into a single cedar box. She tied it shut with ribbon. A future time capsule, not for guilt, for understanding. She labeled it, "When you're ready, my love, from your mother."
Jean collapsed on a Tuesday morning. Claire found her slumped in the garden, fingers curled in the soil, roses bleeding across her palms, like secrets finally surfaced. At the hospital, the diagnosis came swiftly. Advanced lymphoma. Aggressive. Likely spreading for months without detection. Claire sat at her bedside, baby David curled against her chest. The room smelled like antiseptic and unfinished business. Jean opened her eyes and whispered, "Looks like it's my turn." If you're following this story for its raw truth and emotional reckoning, subscribe to Left Woman Loud. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're what happens after the curtain falls, and the soul keeps speaking. Claire tried to stay strong. She changed Jean's sheets, filed insurance paperwork, read aloud from Jean's favorite poems, did all the things she used to do for David, with a steadier hand and a fuller heart. But this was different, because Jean had always been the storm wall, the iron spine behind Claire's quiet resolve. And now she was fading. One night, as rain rattled the hospital windows, Jean asked, "Will you promise me something?" Claire sat closer. "Anything." Jean looked straight into her. "When he's old enough, tell him about David, about me, about the mistakes, but also the mercy." Claire nodded. Jean added, "And tell him you loved his father, even if you never said it out loud." Claire's breath caught. She hadn't known Jean knew. Jean smiled faintly. "You think I didn't see it?" It wasn't about lust. It was about the wound that fit your shape. The next morning, Claire came home to find a letter slid under her door. Grayson had dropped it off before catching a flight to DC for a consulting job. The note was short. "I'll be back in 2 days. You don't have to wait on me, but I'd like to be there for the end." Claire folded it carefully and slid it into the cedar box. That evening, she returned to Jean's room, but the bed was empty. Jean Harper passed at 5:12 p.m. No last words, no soft goodbyes, just a single nurse who said she looked peaceful, like she'd made her peace long before today. At the wake, neighbors came, old friends, even Marlene, the journalist. They shared stories, brought casseroles, whispered condolences. But Claire noticed someone else in the back row. A girl, no older than 20, pale, quiet, holding a baby of her own. After the service, she approached Claire and said, "My name's Eliza. My grandmother was one of Leonard Harper's housekeepers. She died when I was 10. Before she passed, she told me I had a half-uncle I'd never meet, and a cousin who'd one day undo it all." Claire blinked. Eliza held out a small envelope. She said if I ever found the woman who did it, who broke the curse, I should give her this. Claire opened it after the guests left. Inside, a photo. Black and white, torn at the edges. A young Leonard Harper, standing beside a woman, pregnant, holding a book of Psalms. On the back, scribbled in pencil, "We were not born of love, but someone down the line will be. Keep going." Claire placed it in the cedar box, right beside the rest. Later that week, Claire and Grayson met at the top of Harper Hill, where Jean was buried beside David. They stood in silence, watching as the wind swept through the tall grass. Claire finally said, "She knew everything, and still loved us." Grayson nodded. "She loved us because of everything." They placed a single rose on each grave, and as they turned to leave, Claire whispered, "We're still writing this story, just with fewer ghosts." Grayson looked at her. "Then maybe we're finally ready to live it." David Eli Harper was 17 the day he found the box. He was tall, soft-spoken, and more thoughtful than his friends understood. He liked quiet walks, old books, the smell of cedar and lavender. And he'd always known on some level that his family was incompatible. But he didn't know how incompatible until he found the cedar box tucked in the back of his mother's closet, behind winter coats and a rolled-up yoga mat. The label read, "When you're ready, my love, from your mother." He wasn't sure he was ready, but he opened it anyway. Thank you for joining Left Woman Loud on this generational journey of truth, silence, and healing. If this story moved you, consider subscribing, for the next story is already being lived. Inside, he found letters, photos, documents that read like pieces of a puzzle he didn't know he was part of. His mother's handwriting filled the first page. "My son, if you are reading this, you are old enough to ask, 'Who am I? And why do the shadows around my name feel longer than others?' This is not confession. It's a story, and it begins before I ever held you." David Eli sat down on the floor and read, and read, and read.
He learned of his grandfather David, the man whose name he carried, even though they'd never met. The man who loved deeply, but lived with pain stitched into his bones. He learned of his father, Grayson, how one night, one storm, and one heartbreak brought him into the world. And he learned that biologically, he was his own grandfather's grandson and great-grandson. A loop, not a line. He closed the letter and stared out the window. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, "So that's why I always felt different." When Claire got home that evening, he met her at the door. The box was in his hands. He didn't look angry or betrayed, just steady. "You could have hidden this forever." Claire nodded. "I thought about it." He glanced down at the folded papers. "Why didn't you?" Her voice cracked, but she held it together. "Because the blood that made you was tangled, but the love that raised you was whole, and you deserved to know both." David Eli Harper looked at her for a long moment. Then, softly, "Thank you for not letting their shame become mine."
A year later, he stood at the podium of the Harper Recovery Center. It was the anniversary of its founding. He wore a navy suit, a pin shaped like a cedar tree on his lapel. Claire and Grayson sat in the front row. He cleared his throat. My name is David Eli Harper. You probably know the legacy behind my name. You may have read about it, whispers, history, even scandal. But today, I'm not here to carry the shame of others. I'm here to honor the choice my mother made, to speak truth in a family where silence was tradition. He looked directly at Claire. She saved me, not from who I was, but from the lie that who I was would always hurt me. That night, the three of them walked home under stars. Grayson had aged. His hair was grayer now, his posture a little heavier. But his heart had opened slowly over the years. He placed a hand on David's shoulder. You did good up there. David smiled. I meant every word. Claire wrapped her arms around both of them. They stood like that for a long time. A family, once shattered, now whole, not in perfection, but in truth. In the quiet of her room, Claire opened her journal. She wrote, "He is free, not in spite of the truth, but because of it." Then she added, and maybe that's what love really is, the courage to let someone know everything and still give them the choice to stay. If this story moved you or opened your eyes, don't forget to hit like, leave a comment, and share this report with someone who needs to see it.